Dark space stretched across the galaxy like an endless ocean. Stars blinked in silence, watching over dead worlds and broken empires. On the edge of that emptiness, a small ship drifted quietly. Inside, panic filled the air. Ambassador Keeler gripped the control panel with shaking hands. His skin, pale blue and scaled, glistened with sweat. Behind him, 2 crew members worked desperately, trying to send out a signal through a failing transmitter. "We have to reach them," Keeler said. "Earth is the only one left." One of the crew, a young tech officer, looked up, fear in his dark eyes. "But they don't answer calls. They never respond." "They will this time," Keeler whispered. "They have to." The ship had barely survived the last attack. The enemy had no name, no face, just destruction. One by one, the great races of the galaxy had fallen. Their fleets burned, their colonies vanished. Their leaders died with their people. The Galactic Council, once proud and untouchable, now sat in ruins. All that remained were a few voices crying out into the dark, and Earth. They had been watching Earth for centuries. A young, dangerous species. Primitive, unpredictable. Their wars were brutal, their machines terrifying. They never joined the Council, never asked for help. Most thought they wouldn't last, but they did. And now they might be the only ones who could stand against the enemy. The transmitter sparked, then went silent. Keeler closed his eyes and whispered, "Please, hear us." Thousands of light years away, the signal reached a place no alien had ever seen. Deep beneath the ice caps of Antarctica, hidden inside a mountain shielded by tech beyond alien understanding, the signal was received. Project Sentinel was online. Commander Reyes stood in front of a large black screen. He was tall, quiet, and carved from war. His eyes were cold, his face unreadable. Around him, the command room buzzed with energy. The voice of the signal played once, a translation running across the screen. "This is Ambassador Keeler of the Galactic Council. If anyone hears this, we beg for help. The enemy has reached the inner systems. Our defenses are gone. Our allies have fallen. Earth, you are our last hope." Reyes said nothing, his hands folded behind his back. A small light blinked red on his wrist pad. A woman beside him, Laterne Aria Vale, looked at the transmission. "We've been waiting for this, haven't we?" Reyes nodded once. "Activate Protocol Vengeance," he said. Across the facility, sirens began to hum. Not loud, just enough to feel like a tremble in the bones. Giant doors opened in the underground hangars. Black ships with sharp angles and glowing engines roared to life. Inside them, Earth's deadliest soldiers, the Black Nova unit, prepared for launch. They had trained for this moment for years. Most of them weren't even known to Earth's own governments. Born from war, raised in simulation, hardened by missions in secret places, they were more than human now. A single message was sent back into the stars. Simple, cold. Transmission received. Deployment in progress. On the alien side, the message came through fast, too fast. Keeler stared at the reply. "That's it? No questions? No negotiation?" The young tech whispered. "They're coming." No one knew what that meant exactly, but they knew Earth was moving. 3 hours later, a fleet unlike anything the Council had ever seen entered their system. Sleek, black ships flew in perfect formation, silent and calm, like predators gliding through the dark. They didn't use Council beacons. They didn't ask for landing permissions. They landed where they wanted. When the Council's emergency team arrived, the humans were already setting up base. One of them, tall, armored in deep gray plates, helmet glowing, stepped forward. "Commander Reyes sends his regards," the soldier said. Keeler swallowed hard. "You came fast. We don't waste time." The soldier's voice had no emotion, no warmth. Another alien, Minister Talvek, stepped forward. "We are honored by your help. The situation is worse than we imagined. The enemy—" "Where's the battlefield?" the human interrupted. Keeler blinked. "You want to go now? Don't you want details? We don't need them. Another soldier, shorter but wider, stepped beside the first. He tapped a console on his arm, and a small hologram of the system appeared. Red dots blinked on the map. This is where they are? Yes, Keeler said. But how did you get our maps? The soldier didn't answer. That night, for the first time in Council history, alien leaders watched as humans launched a full tactical strike without requesting a single drone or advisor. They dropped into the dark side of a dead planet, where the enemy was last seen, the Varnock swarm. Not much was known. They didn't speak. They didn't negotiate. They simply destroyed. Other races had tried peace. They failed. Others tried brute force. They were crushed. But Earth didn't care what the Varnock were. They only cared about winning. When the first reports came back, the Council was shocked. Enemy forces destroyed, 98%. Human losses, 0. One alien commander whispered, "How?" Another muttered, "We don't know how they fight." Inside the mission base, Reyes stood over a live feed. His voice was steady as he gave orders. Cut off their escape tunnels. Drop EMP pulses here and here. Make them blind. Make them slow. Soldier responded, "Done." Minutes later, the Varnock tunnels collapsed. Another swarm emerged on the surface. Hundreds of them. The human squad leader smiled under his helmet. "Let them come." The footage showed something horrifying. Not the Varnock. The humans. Precise. Cold. Silent. They moved like shadows, never breaking formation. Every shot landed. Every movement was planned. No shouting. No fear. No panic. Within 20 minutes, the area was clear. The Varnock were gone. Keeler stared at the screen in disbelief. "Your weapons, your tactics," Arya Vale replied. "You called us too late. We've been ready." The Council met in secret that night. "This changes everything," one said. "They're powerful. But what's their price?" No one knew. Back on the battlefield, a human drone scanned the last Varnock body. Reyes watched the data. "They're learning. Fast." Latarn Vale nodded. "So are we." Reyes spoke calmly. "We give them one message." Vale looked confused. "To the Council?" "No, to the enemy." She waited. Reyes turned to the comms officer. "Send it now." The message was short, direct, sent into the void where the Varnock signals once came. "We're here. You're next." A moment later, the Varnock network spiked. For the first time, they responded, a screech, a signal, rage, they were coming, and Earth was waiting. The skies above the alien capital were darker than usual. Thick clouds hung heavy, as if the planet itself knew something had changed. The usual calm of the upper airways was gone. People stopped to look up, eyes narrowing at the strange shapes moving across the sky, shadows flying in perfect silence. They had arrived. The humans came without announcement, without ceremony. Dozens of dark, sharp-edged ships slid through, the air like blades through water. They didn't flash bright lights or wave banners. They didn't hover politely above the landing zones. They chose their own path, as if no permission was needed. From the ground, they looked like falling stars, but slower, more controlled, more certain. Ambassador Keeler stood on the balcony of the Council Tower, watching the approach. Around him, a few others gathered, all of them silent. Even the most powerful ministers, the ones who used to speak with pride and certainty, now said nothing. One of them finally broke the silence. "They look like machines." Keeler didn't reply. His thoughts were elsewhere. He wondered if calling them had been the right decision. He remembered the old warnings, the ancient files stored deep in Council memory banks, records of Earth's past, wars, uprisings, the way they solved problems. It had always been clear, humans did not respond like the rest of the galaxy, and now the galaxy was going to witness that truth up close. When the ships landed, there were no grand introductions. The ramps lowered and the first team stepped out. Black armor, glowing helmets, motion sharp and calm. Each one moved like part of a larger system. There were no questions asked, no greetings offered. They scanned the area, checked their surroundings, and began setting up equipment. The council had prepared a welcome team, but they weren't needed. The humans didn't even glance at the banners or the speeches. Instead, they started building. Towers rose quickly, small but solid, each placed with care. Drones flew overhead, marking points in the city and beyond. Machines hummed as they worked. The humans didn't ask for help. They didn't request anything. They already knew what they were doing. A few curious officers from the Council Defense Division tried to approach, hoping to offer assistance or at least understand what was happening. A human commander paused, looked at them through his visor, and spoke in a flat, neutral tone. "This is not a joint mission. Observation is permitted. Interference is not." The message was clear. Back in the command room, Commander Reyes studied the latest reports from the scouts. The enemy had grown quiet since the first strike. Too quiet. Lieutenant Vale stood beside him, reviewing satellite feeds. "They're hiding. They're moving underground again." Reyes nodded. "They want us to get comfortable." Vale glanced at him. "And are we?" "Not yet." The humans had deployed units far beyond the city, into places the council had abandoned. In ruined outposts and dark canyons, their sensors lit up old trails, hidden chambers, forgotten bunkers. The data came fast. The enemy wasn't gone. They were preparing. The council watched in silence as humans mapped every possible route the enemy could use. Places no scout had reached in years were suddenly open, explored, recorded. Keeler was invited to observe one of the briefings. He stood in a small glass room while Reyes and his team analyzed the patterns. "These tunnels here," Reyes said, pointing to a set of red lines, "were missed by your scans. They're deep. They lead straight to your core city." Keeler frowned. "That's impossible. We've scanned that area hundreds of times." "You scanned for what you expected," Reyes replied. "We scanned for what they want." Keeler looked at the map. Again, a cold thought crept into his mind. "How long have you been watching our systems?" Reyes didn't answer. A soft beep sounded in the room. One of the outer sensors had been triggered. A single dot appeared on the map, moving slowly. "They're testing our line," Vale said. "They won't like what they find," Reyes answered. Keeler turned to him. "What are you going to do?" Reyes gave the smallest smile. "Show them the difference between surviving and controlling." That night, the people of the capital didn't sleep. Lights from the human base cast long shadows across the sky. The sound of machines working filled the air like a heartbeat, and far, far away, deep under the ground, something began to stir. Something had noticed them. Something was watching, and it was finally curious. The sun never truly rose on this world. A dim red light filtered through the atmosphere, just enough to see outlines of towers and ships. The alien capital city was quiet, yet not at peace. Everyone was waiting to understand what the humans were planning next. No one had expected Earth's people to be so fast, so quiet, so focused. The council tower was now partly surrounded by strange new buildings, tall, thin structures made of dark alloy. Some believed they were defense towers, others thought they were communication devices. No one knew for sure. The humans never explained. They simply built. Keeler walked through one of the outer rings of the base. A soft hum filled the air. It came from machines unlike anything in the council's database. Silent drones floated just above the ground, scanning everything: plants, walls, soil, even the air itself. They moved slowly, carefully, but with purpose. "Are they studying us?" a council guard whispered. "They're studying everything," Keeler replied. Inside the command center, Reyes stood with his officers. A large digital map hovered above the central table. Red marks moved slowly across it. The enemy's signals were returning, but not in full strength. They moved in patterns, vanishing and reappearing like ghosts. Vale zoomed in on one location. "This is where they're hiding now," she said. "Deep under the stone layers." Reyes nodded. They're adapting. She looked concerned. So, are we? Over the next few hours, Earth's drones entered long-forgotten tunnels. These passageways had not been touched in decades. The walls were marked with strange symbols, older than the Council itself. One drone passed through a narrow gap and found a space larger than any city on the surface. Massive structures lay hidden in the dark, powered by a faint energy field. When the video reached the command center, everyone watching leaned in closer. "What is that?" someone asked. Reyes didn't answer. His eyes studied every movement on the screen, then he spoke quietly. "They've been preparing longer than we thought." Meanwhile, the Council tried once more to open communication with the human command. Minister Tialvik stepped forward in a private meeting with Latine Vale. "Why are your people so quiet?" he asked. "You don't speak to us. You don't share plans. This is our home." Vale looked at him calmly. "You asked for help. You didn't ask for permission." "But we are allies," he said. "Are we?" she replied. "Or are we a backup team brought in when everything else failed?" Talvik had no answer. Back underground, the humans deployed something new. Small, spider-like machines entered the deepest layers of the planet. They mapped more than just tunnels. They detected frequencies, signals the Council had never found. The patterns were strange. They weren't random. It wasn't noise. It was communication. The enemy had a language. Back in the capital, people began to whisper. The presence of humans was changing everything. Council guards started copying their patrol formations. Engineers tried to understand their machines. Children pointed at their black ships in the sky, calling them ghost stars. But behind all, this curiosity was something else. Doubt. Some began to wonder, not if the humans could win, but what they would do after that. That night, Keeler received a visitor, a human specialist, not in armor but in a dark uniform. She carried a small case and asked to speak in private. Inside the room, she opened the case and showed him a device. "This is a translator," she said. "Not for your people, for the others." Keeler stared at it. "You mean the enemy?" She nodded. "We don't know if it will work, but it's time to listen." He frowned. "Why would you listen to them now?" Her eyes didn't blink. "Because we want to understand what you never did." As the translator activated, a low, rhythmic sound filled the room. The lights flickered, just slightly, and in that moment Keeler felt it. Not fear, but something colder. A realization. The humans weren't just here to fight. They were here to learn, to control, to plan. The signal grew stronger. The words were forming, and someone or something was beginning to answer. The signal didn't stop. It came in pulses, soft, slow at first, then steady. Inside the human, base lights dimmed as the translator worked harder. Strange patterns began appearing on the central screen, symbols not seen before. They moved like waves, each line forming something new. Reyes watched in silence. He didn't speak. He rarely did when things became interesting. Vale stood beside him, her eyes locked on the display. "It's language," she said. "Almost," Reyes replied. Keeler had been allowed into the observation room. He stood near the back, unsure if he should be there at all, but something kept him frozen, eyes wide. He had never seen Earth's people like this. They were not panicking, not reacting. They were studying. The message on the screen continued. Lines became shapes, shapes became tones, and then, finally, a voice. It wasn't clear, not at first. It echoed through the room like wind in a tunnel. Not loud, not sharp, but impossible to ignore. "I see you." That's what it said. Just 3 words, but it was enough. Everyone in the room felt it. Something had changed. The silence that followed was not just quiet. It was pressure, waiting to burst. Vale glanced at Reyes. "They know we're listening." Reyes nodded once. "Good." Over the next few hours, the base entered a strange rhythm. The signal came and went, never on schedule. The translator adapted, each time decoding more of the message. The words grew more complex, more curious. Why are you here? What are you made of? What is your reason? Each question felt like a test. They want to understand us, Vale said. They're trying to measure us, Reyes replied. To decide what we are. Keeler stepped forward, finally speaking. Is this a negotiation? A warning? Reyes turned slightly. It's a conversation, but not one we're rushing into. Outside the base, the city lights flickered. Again, not from power failure, but from interference. The humans had placed quiet nodes across the city, small black devices no larger than a coin. The council didn't know what they were for, and the humans didn't offer explanations. But that night, those nodes all blinked in perfect rhythm, responding to the signal, and for the first time the humans replied, "We are listening." The message was brief, but it had weight. Back underground, something shifted. The old tunnels, once lifeless, now pulsed with new energy. Earth's drones picked up movement. Not fast, not aggressive, just motion. Careful, aware. They're not hiding anymore, Vale said. They're preparing. Reyes didn't flinch. So are we. In a distant control room, another human officer worked on the translator. He adjusted the frequency, turned a dial, and paused. The screen showed a new symbol, a circle inside a triangle wrapped in shifting lines. It repeated over and over. When Reyes saw it, his expression changed just slightly. We've seen this before, he said. Keeler looked surprised. Where? Reyes glanced at him. In Earth's oldest sites, the ones we don't talk about. Vale turned. What does that mean? Reyes stared at the symbol again. It means they've been here before. The room went still. That idea, strange, impossible, and yet somehow true, changed everything. If the enemy had been to Earth before, long ago, then they knew something others didn't. Perhaps that's why Earth was different, why they never joined the Council, why they prepared in secret, trained in silence, and built tools no one else understood, because they had seen this before. Keeler stepped closer to the screen. Then why help us now? Why respond to our call? Reyes answered without looking away. Because this time, we're ready. The translator beeped again. Another message was coming. This one had no questions, only one line. You remember? The words burned across the screen, and somewhere, deep in the planet's old tunnels, something turned toward the surface, not in anger, not in fear, but in recognition. The word echoed long after it vanished from the screen. You remember? Those two words filled the human base with something heavier than fear. Recognition. Not of a place or a name, but of a truth that had waited in silence. Vale stood quietly, watching the symbol repeat in slow pulses, each one perfectly timed. The rhythm felt almost alive, like a heartbeat from somewhere deep inside the planet. Reyes remained still, his eyes fixed on the screen. He didn't speak for a long time. Keeler finally stepped closer. Is it true? He asked softly. Have your people seen this before? Reyes didn't look away. Not in our time, but in the old records, before Earth had spaceflight. Before, even history was recorded in machines, and there were stories. Vale finally spoke. Stories of visitors, of places that weren't supposed to exist. They left signs, shapes like this one. Most believed they were myths. But Earth doesn't forget everything. Keeler stared at them, unsure what to feel. It wasn't just a battle anymore. It wasn't just about defense or survival. It was something older, something personal. That night, Earth's drones returned from the deep tunnels with something unexpected. They carried fragments, not of metal, but of stone. Smooth, perfectly cut, each piece glowing faintly with an energy never seen before. Symbols were carved into their surface, symbols that matched the signals. The human scientists didn't speak much, but their focus said everything. They scanned the fragments, matched them against files that hadn't been opened in years, and slowly patterns began to emerge. These pieces, Vale said, they're like a key. A key to what? Keeler asked. To something locked. Away, she replied. Something the enemy didn't destroy, something they protected. Reyes joined them, holding one of the fragments in his gloved hand. Or something they couldn't understand. Meanwhile, the translator activated again. Another message appeared on the screen. This one wasn't a question. It wasn't a warning. It was a memory, a scene unfolded. Blurry, broken, like a dream half forgotten. Shapes moved through a great structure taller than mountains. They were not human, not council, not anything Keeler recognized. But they moved with purpose. They worked, they built. And then they stopped. Something arrived. A presence. The image shifted as if the memory itself could not hold what came next. Then the screen went dark. Silence returned. But only for a moment. A new message formed, this time clearer. It is waking. The words chilled the room. They weren't meant as a threat, they were simply true. Whatever had been sleeping in the deep layers of this world had begun to rise. Reyes turned to his team. We have less time than we thought. Vale tapped. The map. The signal is strongest here, Sector 9, the lowest point beneath the city. Keelar's voice trembled slightly. We abandoned that area after the first wave, nothing returned. Reyes nodded. That's where we're going. A small human team prepared quickly. They didn't wear heavy armor or carry visible weapons. They moved light and silent. Each carried only what was needed. Scanners, memory units, and the stone fragments. As they left the base, the city watched. Not with fear this time, but with curiosity. The people had begun to feel it too. That something important was happening, something bigger than war. Hours passed. Underground, the air grew heavy, warm, alive. The walls were no longer stone. They pulsed faintly as if they remembered being touched before. The team reached the lowest level, and there they found it. A door. Not a mechanical one, not built from parts. It was shaped from the very rock, smooth and perfect. In its center, a space exactly the size of the stone fragment. Reyes stepped forward. He placed the fragment into the hollow, and the door responded, not by opening, but by speaking. Through the translator, a voice came, calm, ancient, and waiting. You have returned. Shall we begin again? The voice didn't echo like a normal sound. It moved through the walls, through the ground, even through the air. Everyone felt it, not as noise, but as presence. Reyes took a step back. The door in front of them was still closed, yet the space had changed. It no longer felt like a tunnel. It felt like a chamber that had waited a long time to be noticed. Vale touched the wall lightly. It's alive, she said. Keeler stood near the entrance, unsure if he should come closer. The council never knew this place existed. And now that it had been found, it didn't belong to them anymore. Reyes turned toward the door again. We didn't come to repeat the past, he said calmly. We came to understand it. The voice answered, not as a single tone, but as many. Layered, ancient, thoughtful. Understanding begins when remembering ends. The second fragment was placed into a slot beside the first. Light spread across the stone surface like ink in water. The symbols glowed gently, then settled into silence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the door opened, not by swinging or sliding, but by shifting the space itself. The wall in front of them folded inward, revealing a large chamber bathed in soft light. Mist curled along the floor, and at the center a structure rose, half machine, half crystal, taller than any person. It wasn't a weapon, it wasn't a machine of war. It was memory. Thousands of tiny lights blinked across its surface, forming patterns, some too fast to follow, others slow enough to study. As the team stepped closer, the translator activated on its own. A story began. The voice returned, not with warnings, not with fear, but with a calm unlike anything the team had heard. There was once a time before borders, before fear shaped, Our actions, we came not to conquer but to share, but your kind reacted with caution. You changed faster than expected. So we left, and we watched. Vale looked up at the structure. They came to Earth. Reyes nodded. Long before our history began, the lights shifted again. This time they showed Earth. Mountains, oceans, skies, all from above. But it was not the Earth they knew. The land was untouched, wild, full of energy. And then a flash, cities rising, fires burning. Then silence. They left, Reyes said, because we weren't ready. The voice confirmed, you had to become what you are now, alone. Keeler watched, overwhelmed. Then why return now? Why help us? The voice responded slowly, because you called. And for the first time, you did not call for control. You called for help. That was the difference. The team stood quietly, understanding what was truly beneath this world. Not just danger or enemies, but decisions made long ago, decisions that had shaped many lives. A final image appeared, a new structure rising above, the surface, something that had not been built yet. It looked like both a city and a beacon, a signal to others. Vale turned to Reyes. Is this a guide? Reyes studied the image. No, it's an invitation. Back at the surface as the team returned, the air felt lighter. The humans didn't explain what they found, but changes began. The black towers they had built started reshaping, not as defense systems, but as learning hubs. Knowledge flowed from the core chamber below into Earth systems above. The people of the capital began receiving messages in their own language, answers to questions they never asked, concepts they couldn't fully understand, yet. The council didn't stop them. Not anymore, because they had seen the shift. This was no longer Earth responding to a call. This was Earth taking its place. Not as a soldier, not as a savior, but as a guide. And somewhere deep beneath the ground the old voice remained, calm, patient, and now awake, waiting not for the next question, but for the next visitor.